It's like you got the ring of power and you want to go into Mordor, story Lord of the Rings, but you have the company of Gollum who just wants the ring. And how do you know what you're supposed to do? How do you know how someone, like, it's hard. Someone could have this that's totally dedicated in a group and working for a cause, but losing all their money and losing their marriage because they're so dedicated. So when it gets to being dedicated for a cause or going through spiritual belief or really inspired about higher understanding, this is a very receptive, socially conscious aspect. But the tendency is to take a wrong interpretation of it. How do you know which interpretation is right until you've tried it? How do you know a teacher is good until you've taken a course? Of course, if you have a bad teacher and you think what you learned is good, it's going to take you some time to learn. So the temptation of Neptune and the exaggeration of Jupiter. Neptune weakens and Jupiter's expanding. So Jupiter's telling Mars to get more adrenaline. Neptune's weakening it. So it's not building up things so it can't live up to those expectations. Now, you're seeing someone's Mars, you're seeing or someone's Jupiter, and even Jupiter, it's hard to understand. You're trying to work with the Saturn and Mars to see how they understand. And Neptune's making more extreme or more gullible. So you're working with the Jupiter in the house that it's in and the sign it's in as the healing factors for the chart. But you're seeing a potential side issue that can come in that can mess this up. You don't say that, you observe it, you try and see where it might come from. It could be a prejudiced thinking, it could be a racial thing, it could be a deceptive thing, it could be an alcoholic parent, it could be any number of things. It could be someone that has 50 cats. They understand they're taking care of one up, take another one up, take another. So, but it's things tend to go out of control. And they're trying to bypass that and they go beyond limits. And yeah, it's going beyond the limits, great. But then it has repercussions that start affecting other people and gets complicated. So from Jupiter, now really you see these with the Neptune to Jupiter. If they're just Neptune, Jupiter's not aspecting anything, okay, you'll see it magnified in the house it's in. But if it's hitting Venus or Moon or Mercury or the Sun or the angles, it's going to have a very powerful presence. It's going to be there, and you're going to have to look for it. And you usually look by questions, what about this? What about that? Or what are you doing with this? And then you'll get the story. Once you get it, then you can start guiding this is better than that. You can start simplifying things a little bit. Okay. Now, Neptune, Saturn is clearer to see because Saturn is your sense of discipline. Saturn's your basic, your self-discipline, your relationship to authority, to father, to accomplishing things, to getting things completed and doing things, to finishing what you started, to get respect and honor and dignity, or disrespect, dishonor, and opposite of dignity, shame, sorrow, like, not dignified. So what's Neptune going to do to Saturn? Neptune's going to weaken Saturn. So you have Saturn, Neptune, you have a father that wasn't really consciously there. It was a little bit more evasive. Sometimes from the people born in 53 when they had the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, usually the father wasn't the strong one in the family, wasn't really attached. Either was fanatically trying to decide for the family and was being stupid, or was more evasive around it and not ambitious, not really structured. So Neptune, Saturn's your ambition. Neptune weakens or fanaticizes your ambition. So if you marry someone with Saturn, Neptune, you figure we're going to put our energy together, we'll accomplish this, and we'll build up to this, we'll get the house, we'll get the cottage, we'll do these things. The Neptune, Saturn is not ambitious enough necessarily to carry it through. And if you're expecting that, that's a big source of problems. But if you realize it's not that, they do what they can, you might have to do the majority yourself and not expect them too much, but you might be mad at them for not doing as much as you should be, and all these guilts and sorrows coming around with accomplishments and guilt. So Neptune, Saturn weakens structure. weakens discipline. It weakens the ability to be restrained. It can get, like, why take this job, or why go after this, or you can get, why work for there. It inclines people to go towards artistic or countercultural activities. Artistic, sometimes dedicated ones, but they're not inclined to be the head or the champion, because if they're the boss or the president or the administrator or whatever, if they're in charge of things, they're not going to live up to expectations. They're not going to accomplish all the things they thought when they accomplished, for all the good intentions of Neptune on Saturn to accomplish this. In the end, a lot won't get accomplished, and people will blame them. So socially, this is Saturn. It's an outer planet, but it could even go to being weak bones, or not so strong bones, if you're looking just physically at this. But usually it's the weaker ambition. Tendency to do more laid back things, or you can identify things, but you're not going to work that hard to get it, because you have some other things you want to do too, or whatever. There may be too many things to do. And when you have this, it takes an extra effort to finish things, to accomplish things, because there's so many things to start and then move on to something else. Or sometimes, why bother? And if you're being blamed for what you're doing or what you're not doing, it's like you're being henpecked, and why bother doing it? So there's an easiness to avoid or evade heavy commitments, or in terms of heavy commitments for partner, or living up to partner's expectations of what we have to do, or bosses. Even in being a father, there's a weakness around taking that role. Or like being fanatical and thinking my kid has to just be this, that's a weakness too. Because the kid will grow up and want to get away from the father. So you're trying to get kindness mixed with discipline. Kind, dedicated discipline. It's hard to find kind discipline. So more often you can say, well, they were mean, or that wasn't so easy, or that was too easy. If you got too easy a coach, you don't do something. You don't do as much as if you have too strict a coach. If you're really strict a coach, you accomplish things, but you won't like them, or you may not live up to them. But Neptune's weakening this ambition, your restraint, your discipline, makes you seem a little bit more laid back. You don't want to be that severe. You want people to like you more. You want to take it a little easier, and you attract people that want to take it a little easier too. This be interesting to see how many politicians have the Neptune Saturn, but usually you wouldn't expect that, because they're not really as respectful or honorable as someone who doesn't have Saturn affected by Neptune. But the Saturn is defining what disciplines and works you have to do. So the weakness of discipline is it's going to affect how your Jupiter understands things. It's going to affect how it guides Mars, and not as much is going to be accomplished, or the things that are accomplished are too extreme and not realizable. So when it's an outer planet, it doesn't show so quickly. You can't see someone's weak ambition right away. You can't see that. But if someone lives with them, they know it. If someone's worked with them for 20 years, they know that. Someone else may just have a lot of different jobs, or why work, or why. For someone, they may marry someone that has this, and the person's not as responsible as they want them to be. We should have this, we should have that. Why aren't you going for this? Or someone may just think, you got married, the husband should just take care of things and take care of the wife, and whatever, you don't let you stay home, it should be like this. It's not real in today's world. Both people usually need to work. Sometimes if you're well off enough, you can have the person staying at home. But usually both people need some respect and some discipline, and the kid will pick up how you're being. And it's whoever's living with you will certainly not run into these factors too. So Neptune's a puzzle. It weakens, it confuses. It's confusing the Sun. It's going to cause confusion with a father, with your own discipline, with your role as being father, with your relationship to anyone authority. You can be evasive. I can do the work for the boss, and if I do this, I'm expecting to get the raise. And you do it, and the raise doesn't come about because you didn't do it quite as well as you wanted it. it's hard to finish things. Neptune weakens your ability to finish things, to complete things. So when you see it as a function in your life, Saturn is your self-discipline, your ability for restraint, to hold steady, to be respectful. All these borderlines get fuzzy. And as a role in life, that makes Louis look like a more fuzzy or questionable person. It's not as critical as it hitting the moon, Mercury, and Venus, but someone can be drunk or deceptive or have really wrong choices, and no one needs to know it. That's just my personal world. People at home will know it, family will know it, but work doesn't have to know it. But often the behavior patterns will spill off into work. But often the work is a separate thing, but it'd be hard to get the dream position. Confusing things can happen, prejudicial things can happen, Neptunian things can happen to Saturn. Even the conjunction, I wouldn't consider it a necessarily positive factor, although it does incline one to go towards counterculture or artistic things where you're not having to be so ambitious. So someone with a Saturn Neptune could be a really good artist, photographer, designer, and they can see the packet and they get it quick and they do it and they work in a culture, but they're not going to be the traditional architect. If they were, they'd have to be designing something really incredible, weird, more imaginative. Yeah, maybe some of these people are building the small homes that can go up in somebody's backyard or in a laneway or something and get people off the street. Somebody with that type of, could have that Saturn Neptune. It could have that Saturn Neptune. They're seeing how people can get in smaller things or simpler things. And that issue for simplicity is better, not to take on more than you have to. That's the lack of ambition. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not something you'd wish on somebody and something you have to work around. You have to finish what you started anyways. So trying to get a kid to do homework that has this, hard to keep them on time, Saturn. Easy to avoid the issue, Saturn. You know, like your timing could be sloppy. Idealized, but not necessarily realized. So as soon as you take this factor and put it into different stories, it'll start coming alive. You'll start seeing it come alive. But until you have a person and their history and you know them for their life, it's going to be difficult to see this. Of course, if you're running a company and you're deciding whether you should hire somebody or not, and you see these factors, they're factors as to how much you can expect of a person. So people use these for all different things. But the weakening of the bones, the weakening of Saturn, the weakening of the restraint, weakening of teeth or bones, like so, joints. But I like to start with the function of self-discipline, restraint, respect, dignity, honor, accomplishment, and these authority things and the relationship to authority. See Neptune coming onto that. Something's expected more than is potentially accomplished. You're working for someone, they keep promising you to do better, and you get better. And if that carrot's always in front of you, you never get there, or rarely. So this is a puzzle. Each planet has a different puzzle. So when we're talking Moon, Mercury, it's really personal things. We didn't talk about these bigger social outer. When you get to the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, you're dealing with outer factors and how they work and spin up. We're all conditioned to go to the outside to prove something out in the world. We're born to see how far we can go. After we've done that or not done that, then begins our spiritual path to say, well, if that isn't happening, who am I? We start to work inwardly. So this is possible to be a mystical discipline or detached discipline where someone's pulling away from things and they justify it, but it still means they may be the deadbeat dad or the person who's not really wanting to take care of the family or others.